So let me make a bold prediction that NAWEC can never be effective, efficient in the current business model it is in.
Seriously?
Yes. Because economics is all about human behavior, it's the study of human behavior. The reason NAWEC is failing is why communism failed, right? State-run enterprises are not sustainable. It's a monopoly. It's a monopoly which has no owner, meaning the public owns it, is the government, meaning the incentive is not there to make a profit. The incentive is not there to run efficiently. So you will see problems of bloated costs, inefficiencies everywhere, no will or desire to fix chronic issues or to keep the service running and stable. So NAWEC is operating, I'm not sure what economic model Gambia has taken. I'm still not clear on that. Are we a capitalist society? Are we a socialist society? Are we a social capitalist society? We are definitely not a communist society, that we know.
We're not now.
But first we need to know what
I don't think we are a socialist also.
So we need to know what economic model as a country we are running, right? Secondly, the government then needs to decide what they should engage in and what they should not engage in based on the economic model. Because if you're a purely capitalist society, government traditionally does not run any businesses. They leave everything to the private sector and they focus on regulation. If you're a social capitalist like Canada, where I lived in, government does look at certain essential services and they run it just because they are so critical, like healthcare or certain services that they feel that if the private sector ran it, they would exploit the population.
Yeah.
So once we decide that, then I think the business model of NAWEC should be decided upon. Because as far as I'm concerned, NAWEC should be is the best business in the world. You're selling an essential commodity which everybody uses. It's essential, meaning everybody needs it. Everybody must consume it.
Everybody will pay.
You're the only one providing it. You can set any price you like and still people will still not have a choice but buy it.
Yeah.
You should be the most profitable company in Gambia by far. Everybody uses it. You set any price, you're the only supplier. It is an inelastic, in economics they call it an inelastic product. Meaning no matter what price you charge, people will buy.
They'll buy.
Right? Elastic products are when the price goes down, demand increases. When the price goes up, demand falls. But this, any price you charge, people are going to buy it. So you should be the most profitable product in the Gambia.
But why are we not though?
Because it should not be a state-run enterprise. Now, for me, from my point of view, this should be privatized. Allow more entrants into the market, create competition. Right? If today you were connected to a power company and they cannot give you stable electricity, you can switch.
Yes.
Right? So things like that, you must create competition. Right? And then you as a regulator, you can set the prices. You can still control how much they charge. Right? Similar to what is happening on telecoms. I'm not saying it's as simple, but there are models around the world that you can use.
Yeah.
In the US, they separate generation from distribution.
And states control it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the US, they choose what models,
Yeah.
but it's a mixture of private sector and government run. Right?
Yeah.
So there are many lessons to draw upon. Right? When the president says, oh, we are creating excess capacity, maybe he's right. Because the generation, from my understanding, is not the problem, it's the distribution.
Yeah.
And they're losing a lot of energy from the leakage at the distribution and is prone to weather activities. Of course, the irregular nature of our society is prone to so many hazards. It's aging wires and cheap, probably installations. But you're in Senegal and you're there for weeks and you never have power interruption.
But
and you wonder what is
problem is
happening.
in Gambia.
Yeah.
When it rains, now it goes, power goes. It is only in the Gambia.
That's an infrastructure problem.
Because when it's raining and it is dark, that is when you need power. Anyway.
Sometimes I wonder because it hasn't rained yet. the sky gets dark.
Yeah.
It's almost like the wire is afraid or something, and the power goes.
The power goes. Nice,
and you look out, and it's just dark, and then the power goes.
No, how do that?
And now
And mentally, that's me die. Man, do must not kill. Dafa dem. Ni am backup. Ma janga wi na ma ya long kurang tata landun nawek samal be caring. So man hani ka power bank mala samal be caring. As if sama is a problem. Because that's what we are used to.
We are born in that, and now it's created a psychological scar. So in the morning, I was going with my brother to the gym, and he said, "Oh, you know, NAWEC tried. It rained last night, and they didn't go off." I'm like, that is your pen.
That's a measurement, yeah.
So basically, I'm not an expert in this area, but all I'm saying is the economic model, because people work with incentive, and state-run enterprises have been proven to fail over and over and over again because of inefficiencies. All right? So they are models that work around the world, and I think they must be understudied. And Gambia is such a small market.
Yeah.
It's one of the tiniest markets in the world where you don't have a huge demand. So keeping power stable and sustainable should not be a huge crisis. Right?
So currently Senegal is supplying the entire upcountry,
right,
and part of us here,
right,
and also how do you call it, car power,
right,
in the board BC Gateway.
Right.
And the thing is, last few weeks ago, we had the minister said we were owing Senegal 10 billion. That is for 3 months bill, right?
Wow.
If that's what we are paying for 3 months.
10 billion
CFA.
CFA.
If that's what we are paying, that's like almost $10 million, right?
Every 3 months.
If that's what we are paying for 3 months, how much are we paying for 1 year? Right. That is different from what we are paying car power.
Right.
How is NAWEC able to pay these bills to Senegal, Senelec, and car power, and also be able to develop its infrastructure to be able to, at some point, say, we don't need this number of megawatts from Senegal and car power, now we're on our own? Because they're taking on so much. They have to, sometimes I look at it and I'm thinking, I don't know if do I blame NAWEC? Because they have to make sure I have power. That's why they have to get some from NAWEC, Senegal. They also have to pay car power ship to give us, and these are bills they have to pay. Now, where do they get the money to develop their upstream infrastructure to be able to give us 100% electricity? At what, when do we get this?
Right. So I'm sure if you advertise for international investors, you would have many people willing and ready to take up NAWEC. You could also break it up and realize that, look, as a country, I'm not very good at running things. Why don't I outsource them and regulate them, right? And charge my taxes and earn my fees and control the prices. We have Pura here. I mean, doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result is the definition of crazy, right? So basically, I think the model in which they're operating, what NAWEC is facing is a historical issue. It's not happening today. This has been happening since we were born.
Yeah.
Right? Gambians, when we travel, energy is a luxury. We can't believe we're in a country where power does not go off.
Yeah.
Right? So basically now we are still facing this problem after 3 presidents. Right? So we couldn't say, oh, Jawara was the bad one, Yaya Jammeh fixed it. Oh, Yaya Jammeh was the bad one, Barrow fixed it. On the 3 presidents, this is an issue that's been going on. So it cannot be about the leadership. It's probably the economic model. Right? So I think that should be understudied. That's why I keep reaffirming. Disclaimer, I am not an expert on energy policy or how to develop energy roadmaps or the business model of the energy sector. My best guess is that public sector enterprises.
Oh, NAWEC, definitely. Fayal ma AC bi ñu taal power bank gis nga say.
So it's off, huh?
Yeah, it's off. But we are on. We are live. But we are still on. We know what to do with them because
we are still on. People.
Yeah, we are on.
So let me just go on now. That is hilarious.
Every single show, I tell my team, make sure we are connected to the backup. We are connected to the OV van when it comes to power.
Maybe they heard what I'm saying. They say, but this
is what happens every show. Every show. And how can we do business if, as a business, you always have to make sure my solar is okay, I have to have NAWEC, and I have to all of this. How can you survive? This is
and running. Now people are moving to solar.
I
believe the guy was in the one with the So basically, the investment you need for solar, the investment you need for all these things, the initial investment is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Although long term, over 20 years, you'll make a savings.
Yeah.
Right? The money you were going to spend on a generator is just too unreasonable.
Yeah.
Right? So that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So NAWEC need to fix. It has to be fixed. But for me, Gamtel has gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
Right? Same as Gamtel, it's gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
And if Gamtel was still an essential service, it would just be like NAWEC. It would be in existence but struggling. But because now of telecoms, they've privatized the sector. How many times do you go on your phone and telecoms has gone down? It's very rare.
It's very rare.
Right?
I also feel like at some point government is trying to, all of our national institutions, you know, they privatize them. And like, for example, for me, for Gamcel, I believe government did us bad because the policies that they introduced, before you open the gateway where Gamcel make their resources, you know, this institution have been really beaten down by the former regime. We have seen what happened at the commission. Before you liberalize and let other players do this, fix Gamtel first. Let them have the required resources. Help them change their infrastructure. This is the infrastructure being that is what they are laying on up to now. You expect them to compete with Africell? They cannot. When Africell wants to put up a tower in Kotu now, they'll do it in 2 days because they don't go through all those procedures.
That's why it's better to privatize. That's why I'm saying this is the inefficiencies.
Yeah.
Gamcel could not compete against Africell and QCell because these are private sector players. They decide quickly. They're efficient. They're money-making institutions. They're smart with their money. They invest in quality things. Gamcel is a bureaucracy.
Yes.
Right? It's not a private sector player, so it's not impossible for them to compete. So basically, look at the state-run enterprises.
Yeah.
What happened in Gam Petroleum? Huge scandal.
Yeah.
Huge loss of resources. Right? And I think they're still a monopoly, or I don't know if they have a competition now in Jar Oil and the others who were building depots.
Yeah.
But look at the history of state-run enterprises across the world. What happened in Russia? They all collapsed and government sold the state assets to the oligarchs. That's how the oligarchs were created. Right? So all the communist countries, look at China, communist China. Right? A lot of the state-run enterprises did not exist after a while. Eventually they created a hybrid model. What serves their people and their political philosophy.
Yeah.
Right? We should also understudy why these parastatals keep failing and never make money. And what was even more interesting is, I think 3 years back, I saw government subsidizing parastatals. These are investments that should have made government money.
Yeah. When they take loan, government guarantees them, and it's just...
But let me tell you, my view, parastatals have historically been a political tool for leaders, right? It's a source of resources in case they say, oh, Gamcel, you know, I have a gala dinner, buy my tickets. And the CEO, of course, he has no choice. He has to buy the ticket.
Yeah.
He reports to a board that is appointed by the head of state.
The president goes on tour. I remember I was working at Gamcel. When the president goes on tour, I was the marketing manager. We print T-shirts, flyers.
It's a political tool.
Yeah.
Oh, I have 1,000 militants, hire them.
Yeah.
Right? So that's for me, my point of view, why heads of state like to keep them state-run enterprises to maintain control of a very vital resource. But that is causing major losses for the citizens of the country and major inefficiencies in the running of the country.